know that kids have boundless amounts of energy to burn off? The trouble can be finding a way to help them do that.
Exactly. So today we are getting some help from Red Door Pediatric physical therapist Laura Kendall on finding some time in our everyday for kids to be active. Laura, welcome. So let's start out by talking about why physical activity is so important for children.
Absolutely. So the CDC recommends that toddlers achieve about 3 hours of vigorous activity throughout the day. They also recommend that kids between the ages of 6 and 17 years old get about 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity daily. And the reasons why is that it helps with so many different areas of their lifestyles. So we could think that cardiorespiratory or aerobic fitness is really good for developing those that heart and lung function that they need. Bone density is another area that we look at. So exercise specifically to focus on bone density really helps those bones adapt and become stronger and denser. A lot of times we think about that with older individuals when we relate to osteoporosis, but it really starts when they're young.
You know, Laura, I think that sometimes we think of exercise as strictly a physical benefit to a child, but there are also some mental benefits for children that are active and get out there and are playing and are physically active.
Absolutely. So really, kids that are active throughout the day, it helps manage any depression or anxiety symptoms that they may be having. It also helps manage their stress.
Totally. I think that this is a challenge that some families are maybe dealing with. Since the pandemic, you're probably spending more time at home together. So you're trying to figure out ways to make all of this happen. So let's talk about some of the different activities that are recommended for encouraging that different type of physical activity you want during the day.
Sure. So there's really 3 different kinds of activities that we think about. So aerobic is what we really want the most of. So 60 minutes or more a day, at least 3 days a week. So examples of that: running and walking, playing catch, helping with yard work, biking, dancing, soccer, any of those sports activities. So basketball, tennis, martial arts is another one that we think of. So that would be the aerobic activities. Muscle strengthening is another one, and we want that about 3 days ago, climbing a tree or climbing playground equipment, lifting or carrying heavy objects, playing in gym class on a scooter board. Those ones all focus on building that muscle strength. Bone strengthening is another one that we look at, and we have to think mild impact here. So that's where we build that density and that bone strength. So running, jump rope, hopscotch. For older kids, some weightlifting or any sports or games that really allows quick changes in directions. All of these areas, if we get some good exercise in these areas, it really helps decrease our risk of injury.
Laura, you provided us with some information that I found quite interesting, not necessarily positive information, but the CDC is reporting that kids between the ages of 6 and 17, only about 25% of those kids are getting what may be considered the proper amount of exercise. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So, we've noticed that sometimes there's less gym time in school now than there used to be. Kids are also spending more times on screens. They're getting phones when they're younger. They have their iPads and TVs. And so less and less they're getting outside throughout the day or interacting in play-based exercise.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we talk about the way that school has changed so much. They're using those iPads and everything. If you're getting adequate amounts of physical activity, this is probably something that's going to help in the school arena as well. Can you talk about that linkage?
Yeah, absolutely. So physical activity has shown that it can relate to better grades, school attendance, and classroom behaviors with kids. It can also help with those overall cognitive performance areas. So think like concentration during school and memory from what they're learning.
So if a parent is seeing that their child is getting more and more interested in gaming and things like that, that keeps them maybe indoors and not outside enjoying the fresh air and getting the exercise they should, what are some simple ways to encourage outdoor activities? Do they need to get a friend involved, or is it something they should go out and work with their child themselves? What are some suggestions you would have for parents?
Absolutely. So always just setting a limit on the time that they're on that iPad or interacting with those items is best, and then encouraging them to get outside. So you can certainly spend time with your child playing a game that they would find of interest outside. So whether it's kicking the soccer ball around in the yard or playing basketball outside. Those are all good activities. Scheduling times for kids to play together outside and just limit that time that they're indoors. Or you could even do some different indoor activities that gets them up and moving as well.
What
Okay.
about getting them involved in team sports and things like that? Is that important too?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I like all of these ideas too. One of the things that really stood out to me too was when you talked about toddlers are recommended to be vigorously active. So vigorous activity for 3 hours a day. So that is pretty incredible. It's so important for us to start finding ways to really factor that into the life and schedule that into your daily life. So if we want some tips on how to do that, or maybe we need a little bit of help, encouragement, how can we find you guys at Red Door Pediatric?
Absolutely. You can find us at our Bismarck, Minot, or Grand Forks locations.
Great, and a phone number right there on your screen, 701-222-3175. Laura Kendall from Red Door Pediatric Therapy, thank you again for joining us. This was really fun.
Thank you.